Welcome to Tyrompers No Limit Podcast.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, thanks so much for joining Tyrompers No Limit Podcast, guys. It is Money, Finance, Freedom Week. I knew right away when it was Money, Finance, Freedom Week, we had to get this champion on here. This is a young man that's documenting his wealth journey in real time, has been doing it for a few years. A young man with hundreds of thousands of followers across social media that he inspires daily. I am one of those people. A young man that is the CEO of the ZZZ Money Club and Purple Brickio. Can't wait to get into that. A young man that makes investing look easy, attainable, and he allows to share it for everyone. This is a young man that has run marathons, fired his corporate job at 22, ladies and gentlemen. He's inspired and helped a ton of people financially, including myself. This is my friend and brother. Welcome to the pod, Colin, aka Decade Investor. What's up, brother, man?
Ty, always a blessing, man, to be on here, chat with you, and excited to share my journey, share my story, and just inspire someone. You know, every day I wake up, I get on social media, like you mentioned, in front of hundreds of thousands of people, and it's how can I change one person's life? You know, I think people wake up every day, and you know, if they're trying to do something of value on social media, it's like, how can I change the world? And that's great. I want to change the world, but I know it starts with one person at a time. One. It's not 10, 10, 10, 10, 100, 100. It exponentially grows, but it's one person at a time. And so hopefully I can do that today on this podcast. So thank you so much for having me.
Amen, brother. Well, dude, Money, Finance, Freedom Week, you're a guy that we got to have on, man. I have learned more from you, and, we've been sharing the journey. We came up at the same time, man. So we interact every day on Twitter for the last 3+ years. It's been awesome to see your growth on there too. And it's been great. But for anybody who doesn't know you, I'd assume if they know me, they know you, but maybe give like a brief backdrop, an intro, and how you kind of got into money and finance and then some of this stuff, man.
Yeah. So like you mentioned, I'm currently 24. My birthday's in about 2.5 weeks. So I'll be the quarter of a century years old, 25. But my journey starts back in my mid-teens. So when I was like 15, 16 years old, I was mowing lawns in the summer, had some cash, and I was like, what do I do with this? And long story short, I didn't like the banks. Now, I don't like the banks still for different reasons, but back then I didn't like the banks because I couldn't see my actual cash. I just had a debit card, and I was like, I never knew how much money I had. So I was like, I don't like the banks because they don't tell me, which obviously you could just go to an ATM and look it up. But I just, wasn't thinking like that. So I used to keep all my money in cash. And then, it was cool. It looks fun, on social media, where I could be like, oh, look at all this cash I have. But then I was like, all right, there has to be a way to become rich. I'm 15, 16 years old. How do I get the Lamborghini? How do I get the mansion, whatever? So go on the internet, search up, how to become wealthy, how to become rich, learn about the stock market, learn about investing, just all, many, many different things. But one of those things being the stock market. So at 17, I opened up an account, a custodian account. My parents had to help me open it up and start investing. I learned really good lessons. My first initial investment was $400. Lost most of that money, but it was the greatest $400 I ever spent because it taught me many, many lessons to now, accumulate the wealth I have at my age. And so, at 17, learned my lesson after about a year, said, hey, what I was doing wasn't working, went back to the drawing board, learned more lessons to now, pick the strategy I have with my money at 24. And that's the strategy I follow. And that will take me to, the promised land.
I love that, brother. Well, maybe we can get into, what was that first, did you just buy one individual stock, or what was that first mistake, and what kind of has been the shift in mindset then from back then to now?
Yeah. So with the $400, it was 4 companies with $100 each. So, I thought, I don't know if you've heard of the guy, Timothy Sykes, but he's a famous trader who would do penny stocks, and he would take penny stocks and, he famously turned, a couple thousand or tens of thousands of dollars into millions. So, it's very famous. And so I'm like, well, if he can do it, I can do it, right? And so I tried that. I bought 4 stocks I didn't know anything about. One of them was like a less than a penny. It was like 0.00001, like super, super small. I'm like, this is going to be it. $400 into 4 million. I'm set for life. I'll be good. So the 4 companies I didn't know anything about. Learn my lesson that 2 things. Number 1, it's important to know what you're investing into, but also number 2, that it things aren't as easy as they sound. It's not as easy just throwing a dart at a dartboard and making money, and understand what you're investing into. And so went back to the drawing board, learned about ETFs, VOO. I post about a lot on social media.
VOO.
Yeah, so learned about those things to build a winning strategy where it's not the flashy Lamborghini after a year because I got lucky, but it's the, hey, year over year, decade over decade, it's going to pay off if I do it right. And so just kind of sticking with it. And like I said, that $400, although no one likes to lose money, to me was the greatest $400 I spent, air quotes spent, because it taught me to find a winning strategy that now has allowed me to, build the wealth that I have.
That's awesome. And I think all of us go through that. We see the 1 in a million guy, right? For every one guy who took that penny stock and turned it into 10 million, guess what? There's 10 million people like you, because it's a zero-sum game, right? So I think, anybody can sell that kind of snake oil course. And the one thing I love about you, man, is you make complex things very easy to people. And, before I met you, Colin, I thought, well, dude, I don't know anything about the market. I just need to hire an advisor. I don't know what to do, right? Can you kind of walk me through, you're 17, you're opening up your own brokerage account. You're coaching people now on how to do these things. What was that light bulb moment for you? Hey, this is attainable. Anybody can do this. And you talk about that a lot. You don't need $500,000 to start. You need $1,
Yeah, I think the biggest thing that I understood was, it's not going to happen overnight. And I got into the game understanding it's not going to happen overnight. I think that's where a lot of people struggle, is because they don't have $500,000 and they maybe only have $300 a month to invest. They automatically assume, okay, how can I take my 300 and turn it into 3 million by taking on, an exorbitant amount of risk, which may pay off, like you said, that 1 in a million guy, but for the other 999,000, whatever it is, it's not going to work out for them. So I understood going into the game after failing that, hey, it's not going to be an overnight thing. But I also, at the same time, throughout my life, through other things outside of investing, I understood that good things take time. I understand that if it comes quick, it usually leaves quick. That's why majority of lottery winners, after a few years, their money's gone, right? Because it came quick. They did nothing to earn it. And so me knowing it's a long-term game doesn't make it more fun. Like, we all want to be rich tomorrow. I understand that. But at the same time, I understand that it's going to take time. And if I just keep pounding the stone, I have tattooed on my leg, brick by brick. I understand, you build a house one brick at a time. You don't just wake up one day and the house is built. And so I know that if I can just keep stacking these bricks, get a little bit of help from that thing called compound interest, then beautiful things can happen to my portfolio. Beautiful things can happen to my money. But going into the game, understanding it's not going to happen overnight. Why I learned that lesson, by taking on that $400 and doing that, I learned the lesson. Now I know that. And now I just know, hey, if I keep stacking my bricks, it will pay off. It just, who knows how long it'll take, depending on how many, how big is your shovel. If you're investing $1,000 a month, you're going to get there a little bit quicker than someone investing 100. But I just know it's not going to happen overnight. But at the same time, I'm, actively attacking that goal of laying those bricks as often as I can.
Man, I love that. And I think that's why you're so inspiring, brother. Because Colin, when I first started following you and we started following each other, we had 500, 700 followers, something like that. Man, we're talking 3+ years ago. And I remember the biggest thing you got hate about, we were laughing about it a little while ago, is guys, what are you trying to be a millionaire by the time you're 200, and you would talk about, hey man, my, dividends this month, I'm getting $42. And people, oh, what's $42, man? Oh, and you started talking, well, I'm only investing 300 into VOO. Now as you're, you scaled your income and it's thousands of dollars every month, and you're making tens of thousands of dollars every month in passive income and all these things. It's been really cool to watch that journey and be able to say myself, yeah, maybe I don't have $10,000 this month to invest. I got 800, but man, if I put that 800 in something safe and have a long-term mindset, I can't lose, right? If you have a long enough vision, you can't lose. And so what's that kind of felt like for you to document that journey, take some hate along the way, but to have that long-term mindset of literally you can't lose. I mean, I think you said now, if you never invest another dollar and the stock market does its thing, by the time you're 60, you're worth a lot of money,
Yeah. I don't know the number. It's, multiple millions that, my money is worth, because I've been putting in the work really, really heavily in my, early to mid 20s. I guess I have to say mid 20s now because I'm 25, but
old man, brother.
Yeah, I think, like, for me, I've come to realize that on social media specifically, but I think social media just amplifies society in general. But I think social media makes it easier just because it's right there on our phones. But people are very, very short-term thinkers. Whether it's finances, fitness, everything. I think there's a huge overlap between money and fitness, but everyone's short-term, right? 60-day abs, 30-day abs, 10-day abs. I mean, like I'm seeing like, and you same with the money, right? It's like, how can I turn this 10,000 into $1 million by next week? And then I'm set, right? Everyone is short-term thinking. And like we've been talking about, can it pay off? Yeah, I'm sure there's someone out there that got abs in 30 days. I'm sure it happened, right? But does that mean it's going to happen for everyone? No, right? It's just not going to happen. Same thing with money. Like, so can someone turn 10,000 to a million and on one trade got really lucky? Yes. But is it going to happen for everyone? No, right? And so for me, like, navigating through the hate on social media and being that long-term voice in a short-term world is tough. And I think it's taught me a lot, just like personally, like, there's always going to be someone who doesn't agree with what you're doing. There's always going to be someone, you know, whether it's family, friends, or random internet strangers, right? It is what it is. But if and it's easier said than done, but getting that thick skin to be like, you know, good for you that you're 23 or that you're 35 and you've attained all this wealth. But now you want to, I don't know if I can cuss on here. If you want to crap post on people on social media, then like, that's you are in a bad position in life, in my opinion, to like go do that. Or secondly, I think this is a lot bigger on social media, is you're lying about what you have. And so you're using you're lying about something, and then you're using that to try to like crap post on other people so that you can get people to follow you, that you can then like sell them something that is going to make you money really. And so, you know, for me, I believe in my strategy. I believe in what I'm doing. And at the end of the day, like on social media, I'm not telling anyone to do what I do. I just share my journey. I document it. At the end of the day, like, you know, same problem with with your fitness. You're going to go to the gym. You're going to work out, whether or not people follow you or not. Right. Same with me. Like, I'm going to go work. I worked out earlier today. I'm going to go work out later, whether or not, you know, I don't do fitness on my socials, but I want to do it anyways. I'm going to invest whether or not I have 100,000 followers on Twitter or 0 followers. Like, I'm still going to be financially free. It's just now how I'm doing this to just help people, to inspire people. They don't have to do it. My life doesn't change if they do or if they don't, but I want to inspire people.
I love that. I'm definitely one that you inspired, man, because I remember meeting you early on, and it's got to feel a little vindicating too, to like, now that you're hitting some of these big numbers, man, at 23 years old, 24, 20, you know, about to be 25. Because I do remember people, oh, what are you going to buy a pizza this month with your, you know, with your dividends and things like that. And it really helped me shape a long-term vision too, man. So I think you're doing that for a lot of people, man. And you know, it's really cool to see that. You mentioned mindset, and I want to get into this. And I know you're a fitness guy too. You've run marathons. You're really big into pushing yourself that way. Talk about how you think money mindset, and, you know, mindset's kind of one of those Q words, but how do you feel like that bleeds over into other areas into your life?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, like you mentioned, I run a lot. I try to run at least 5 to 8 miles a day. Like, depending on the weather, I'm sometimes a little bit of a wimp when it gets cold. I got to wear gloves, or if it's like below, I live in the Midwest. Yeah. If it gets like below 0, I'm like, you know, I'm, you know, and I don't like
bro, that's
running.
55 degrees for me. If it gets below 55 degrees in Vegas, I ain't going outside.
Yeah. And, you know, I don't like treadmill running either. So I'll just, you know, but I think there's a huge overlap between fitness and finances. I think a lot of the lessons that are taught between the two, you just change a few words and you know, you can teach the same lesson in both sides. You know, for me, like, I understand, I played college football, and I was there for 4 years. I didn't play my first 3. I played my last year. For me, I look back at that journey in my life right there, those 4 years, and I'm like, okay, I woke up every day, worked my tail off in the gym to not play for 3 years, to play in my last year. Like, there is a prime example of my life where I like had the delayed gratification of like, I'm going to practice every day knowing I'm not playing, but I have to get better because my opportunity will come. And I know that with investing, right? I'm going to show up every week. For me, I invest every week. I'm going to show up, and I'm not going to reach financial freedom this Friday. Like, mathematically, it's just not going to happen. But if I show up this week, and I show up the week after, and the week after, and the month after, and then the decade after, you know, who knows what can happen? Compounding can do some crazy things. But it's the exact same thing in fitness. You don't go to the gym. And an analogy I use a lot too is like, when you go, investing is like the gym, right? You have in the gym, you have your curls, you got to do your squats, right? And maybe if you're first getting to the gym, you're not, like, your first time ever going, you're not throwing up 325 on bench. It's just not happening, right? But you start at 100 pounds, 135, right? And then you go maybe next week and you might do 136. Yeah, obviously the 2.5, 140, right? And then, but you move your way up. Same thing with investing. It's not, hey, I need to invest $500,000 a year or nothing. Maybe it's 10 a week, then it's 20 a week, and then it's 40 a week as I make more money, or as I, you know, build trust in that system. So it's the same thing. You go to the fitness gym, you also have to go to the finance gym. That's how I like to talk about it.
I love that, man. It's such a great analogy. And I think it touches on what you said before. People want that instant gratification, but again, with the gym, when people hire me and say, oh, I got a wedding in 3 weeks, I need to look great for him. And I'm not your guy. Like, I want lifestyle changes, right? That are going to produce fruit for decades. And I think that's one thing you helped me with. You know, one thing I always say is you are great at taking these complex, very scary things like the stock market. I didn't know what an ETF was until I met you, man. I had no idea. ETF, is that where you lose money? I don't know, right? So you started making a lot of these things easy. Maybe there's somebody out there listening today that says, hey, Colin, I don't know about the stock market. I'm afraid of it. Maybe one time I tried it and I lost money. Can you kind of talk about your overall strategy, what people come into the ZZZ Club, kind of what you advise and how you help a lot of people? I know you've helped me this way. Maybe you can help somebody out there today who finds these things very intimidating.
Yeah, I think first off, like you just mentioned, someone comes to you and says, hey, Ty, I need to get fit in 3 weeks for this wedding. And you're saying, I'm not your guy. I'm going to say the same thing with money. If you're coming to me saying, hey, I'm 24, I just got my first job after college. I'm making, 50 grand, 60 grand, 40 grand, 80 grand a year, but I'm trying to be a millionaire by 27. I'm going to say, I'm not your guy because I'm not your guy. It's not what I do. And I'm not going to try to tell you to do that because mathematically odds are against you. I want to play the long game, but I can't say for sure because you never know, but confident game of like, hey, if we stick with this strategy, it can pay off, right? Same with the gym, right? I can't tell you you're going to have abs in 60 days, but if you follow this strategy, maybe after, who knows, 120 days, 260 days, 360, you might have those abs, right? Same thing with money. I'm not your guy to get you rich overnight. I'm your guy that's going to teach you the lessons. I'm going to show you and give you that lifestyle change of like, hey, when money hits your account, it's not, how do I spend everything? Let's change that mindset into being like, okay, I just got paid for my job. Let me take 10% and put it into this investment. Let me take 20%, whatever I can do, right? And then how can I find ways to increase that? And I know if I do that week over week, month over month, year over year, beautiful things can happen where you get to the point where, hey, I can invest zero and still hit my goals where I want to be financially at 52, 47, whatever it is. And so I love taking, like you mentioned, those complex things because some people say that they made the stock market to be complex and hard to understand. I don't know if that's necessarily true, but I do agree it's very hard to understand and it's very confusing. So I wake up and like when I'm creating content, it's like, how can I take something that, like you mentioned, what's an ETF? How can I take something that someone may have no idea what those 3 letters mean and break it down where they can walk away and say, I feel pretty confident I know what an ETF is. I feel pretty confident I know what an index fund is. I feel pretty confident I know what the S&P 500 is. So when I'm creating my content, I'm trying to take that very complex thing or just complex and break it down where someone can walk away being like, I learned something. And so if you have no idea where to begin, I have a YouTube channel, my Twitter, like that's what I do every day is trying to take those complex things and instill in your mind the ease of, hey, it might be complex now, but if you read this, you ask a couple of questions, you're going to walk away feeling like you just learned, something about the stock market.
100%, man. And guys, I'll say this now and I'll say it again later. We'll link everything Colin does below. He's got an awesome YouTube channel. I love your videos. I've learned a ton from your videos, man. And just getting to chat back and forth with you. You're a massive creator with hundreds of thousands of people across all the sites. You still respond to people every day, man, which I think is amazing and really cool. You can ask personal questions. And yeah, man, I think the thing that you really opened my eyes to too is I don't need to know about all the different companies. I can just buy the S&P 500 and feel pretty good looking at the last 100 years. If I leave it in there for 30 years, I'm okay, or VOO. I know VOO, shout out to VOO, I love VOO now, man. It's like my favorite one, right? Like you only need to know a few things. And if you have that long-term horizon, it's amazing. And one thing you mentioned I want to hit on is you taught me this too, is just kind of gamifying it a little bit. You said, hey, every Friday when I get paid, I instantly put it in there. It's a fun game, man. When you watch your wealth build, when you start to think in terms of like, all right, my monthly nut is $4,000. Every $4,000 I get stacked away is 1 month less I have to actually work or show up at a job I don't like, right? You start thinking of money as far as time and freedom. You help me shift my mind around to that and kind of gamify it almost. Like, how low can I get my budget? How low can I, can I get an extra $100 a week to put in there? And I think you've made that, you kind of lit up my brain, so to speak, on that a few years ago. And brother, I mean, I don't even look at our net worth now, but once a quarter I update it. I put it in VOO and S&P 500 and some of these things that you talk about. I don't really look quarter over quarter, month over month. You just make money, man. It's not like a cheat code, but if you have a long-term horizon of years and decades, like you talk about, I mean, let's be honest, like we have bigger problems if you lose at the S&P 500 over 20 years, right? Our economy, we're sunk.
Yeah. And something on that too is like, then I get the pushback of, well, okay, in 20 years, I could have $1 million, but in 20 years, $1 million is not what it's going to be today, which I'm not denying inflation. We all understand that's a part of the thing. But then what's the alternative, right? That's like saying, oh, well, I'm not going to go to the gym because, my abs will go away if I don't go back. It's like, well, then, like, what's the alternative? Like, you're just going to be fat, like obese? Like, you want to, like, for investing, like, if say you do the math, you say 20 years from now, I can have $1 million, right? But then you say, well, in 20 years, $1 million is only going to buy me, let's just say $600,000 worth of items in terms of purchasing power. Well, $600,000 in 20 years is better than $0 in 20 years, right? Or then the other thing is, or then you have to, like, sadly, but you have to find more money to invest to get 2 million in 20 years. I mean, at that point, it's that's almost just like an excuse to not start, right? Like, so for me, that's something that I'm always battling with as well, is just getting people into the game, right? Someone said it perfectly the other day. I was on a podcast and they said, just get on base. Just get on base. Just show up to the gym. Just maybe you don't even work out. Just show up, learn about it. Maybe you just walk on the treadmill for 5 minutes. Just get on base. Invest $5 a week, $10 a week. Get on base and gamify, like you mentioned. Like, that's what I do with my investing. I invest every single Friday. People always ask me, why on Friday? Is the market down? I don't know what the market's going to do. I just buy on Friday because it's a great way to, end the week. But hey, I know every Friday I get to wake up and buy X amount of money into assets. My future self is going to thank me because, every Friday I'm waking up doing that. And now it's turning to like buying every single day of the week. But, Friday is my big day. But yeah, I think gamifying it, because when you play the long game, it doesn't happen overnight. Right. And that's why long-term investing isn't like as exciting. And I don't mean that in a negative way. It's just people, because of their short term, it's not exciting for them. And so they try to do the options or whatever and end up probably losing money. But boring works in investing. And if you can have fun along the way of like, hey, how much can I invest this month? Can I find an extra $5 to invest this month? Can I maybe watch my neighbor's dogs for a day when they go out of town, or maybe babysit someone and get an extra $50 and put that in to buy another, half a share of whatever, a share of this? Like, gamifying it really helps you along that journey to make it not as boring and make it more fun where you actually want to stick with it.
I definitely agree with that, man. You hear all kinds of push. Oh, well, why would you do dividends? You have to pay taxes on it. It's like, well, you got to pay taxes on your job anyway. Like, you hear a lot of these pushback things, and it is true, man. Like, there's always going to be an excuse. There's always going to be a path. And I think mastering the mundane, you've actually made it more exciting for me, because before I knew anything about investing, I would just put money in with like Edward Jones, right? And they'd take a big cut off the top. Like, it's very hard. But now that I can just throw it straight in my brokerage, right? Like, not look at it for a while and then look back and be like, holy cow, man, that stuff adds up. Compounding is magical almost, You've made it more fun for me in that sense, man, if you have a longer term vision. So I appreciate it, man.
Yeah. And like, I always laugh too, because I get the comments of like, well, I don't, what if you don't live for another 20 years? Well, me being, as for some people, I get that. If you're 80, obviously a little bit different, but for me being 24, about to be 25, if I don't live till I'm 45, then that's not a money problem. That's a like health problem, unless some black swan event happens in my life. Outside of that, if I'm in bad health at 45, that's because I didn't take care of other things that are, to me, more important than money. Money is just an aspect. It's not the most important thing. If I don't take care of my health, then who cares how much money I have? I agree with that. But because I'm taking care of my health, because I work out every day, because I try to eat right. I know I got canes when I get 100,000 followers. I know you commented on that.
Yeah, that was a good one, man.
But barring some crazy event, I'm going to be alive at 45. I believe I'm going to be alive at 80, 90, and maybe with technology, I could live to 100 plus.
Elon's putting that thing back here. We're going to live to 500, man.
Exactly. So like, I don't want to wait 20 years. Well, in 20 years, I'm going to be 20 years older, no matter if I invest or not. So I might as well be wealthy when I'm 20 years from now versus, again, what's $1 million? It's not even going to buy you a hamburger. Well, guess what? At least I'll have a hamburger in 20 years, not have $0,
That's right, man. I love how you kind of mentioned to some of those habits and those routines and kind of the mindset too. Can you kind of walk us through? I know you run in marathons, college athlete, kind of walk us through a typical day in your life, some of the systems that you have, some of the good habits that you've developed along the way, man. Because I think that can help people with money, with life, right?
Yeah, I'm not a big like goal setter in the sense of like, I want to have X amount of money by this age. And I used to say, hey, I would love to have this amount of money by this age. I'd love to have this many followers in 2023. I'd love to have this many subscribers. But I've come to realize that those are not in my control, right? Like, I can't control if Ty follows me or not. right? Now, if you unfollow me, I'd be a little upset, but
at this point, you'd be like, he must have hit the wrong button.
Yeah. But I can't control those things. And so, my goals are less goals of like, I want to have this by this or have this much. It's more, what are my daily habits that I know I need to get done, or weekly habits I know need to get done to get to where I want to be. And so, for example, like I know every day, if I want to be in good health in the next 10 years, I need to do some sort of activity. Maybe it's yoga, maybe it's running, maybe it's sitting in the sauna and biking or something. I need to be active, right? With my business, I know that, hey, if I want to continue to grow my business, I don't know how much, I get 100 followers a day, 1,000 followers a day, or zero. I can't control that, but I can control if I'm posting good content, if I'm providing value to someone, if I'm responding to people, if I'm going live on YouTube to answer questions. I can control those things. So for me, my day might be different versus, meetings, more meetings than not meetings. Some days, like yesterday, I didn't have really any meetings other than my morning live stream. But I know like, hey, I can get ahead on this, because if I finish this ahead, that means it frees up time in the latter half of the week, where if a meeting comes up or if something happens, I can join that and not have to worry about trying to do two things at once. And so my habits, I stick to a very strict schedule on my computer. Like, hey, like Ty was, we're supposed to do our podcast 30 minutes from now, but I had some open time and you messaged me. So like, hey, I can make that quick change. We're good. But for me, it's like, what daily habits do I know I need to do to get to where I want to be with my, business, with my finances, with my health, and then taking action on those. And some days it's a lot easier to take action on those things than others, but I know like, hey, let me stick to these habits. And if I stick with it, I play the long game, 3 years from now, I could have, 100,000 followers. That was me 3 years ago saying that. So now here I am. So here, who knows what the next 3 years brings? I can't say a goal. I can't say I want to have another 100,000 because I don't know. I can't control that. Maybe Twitter shuts down tomorrow. I can't control that, but I can control if I'm providing value to people's lives, where maybe if Twitter does shut down and a new platform comes up, Twoter, I don't know, whatever it's called, people follow me there because they recognize the name and they, I provided value to them.
That's right, man. I love that. Focus on what you can control, man. That's such a powerful thing. Well, let me ask you this, Colin, because, you are a young man, right? And you fired your company at 22 and you had a great job, right? Like you were making good money, good company, all this stuff. Can you walk us through that? What was that like? And then sort of take from there and bridge to what it's like being a really successful 24-year-old right now. You're single, right?
Mm-hmm.
Shout out to all the ladies out there. I think I do a demographics check. We have like 4% female that watch this channel, but it's probably like my wife and mom, but for the females out there, give Colin a shout, man. But being really young, successful, but choosing a different lifestyle, right? Like a lot of people your age that have the money you have would be buying the flashy car, be going to the nightclubs, would be doing these things, right? And you're really not. You're still in grind mode, building. So can you kind of walk me through that corporate life transition and then what it's like now?
Yeah, I remember. So I graduated college. I worked in wine sales for a year. And then after that, I worked in healthcare consulting. I was like teaching a technology to doctors and nurses. But the time came where I was doing social media and everything on the side, and the income was equal to or greater to my 9 to 5 for 6 months. And I'm not a big risk taker. I don't like to take a lot of risks because I don't know, it's just in my blood. I'm not a big risk person. But I felt confident that having 6 months of equal to or greater income, I could take this risk, fire my company at 22. The conversation was funny. They asked me to go travel somewhere and work overnight, like, because I was working in hospitals. And I was like, I just don't want to do that. So I'm going to quit. And then I got on a call with them and they were like, this is surprising. Why are you quitting? And, what are you going to do? The typical, right? Like fish out of what they call it, crabs in the bucket. Like, if we're doing something different, everyone gets nervous. And so fired my company. And then, transition full-time to all this. And, I think like we were talking about a little bit earlier, I sometimes when I tell people what I do, they say, oh, I would love to be a content creator. You just get to do what you want all day. And it's like, yeah. I mean, that's not wrong, but also I think it takes a special breed of someone to not work a corporate job or not work a consistent income job, because I don't get a paycheck every every other Friday. Mm-hmm. The paycheck is, if I don't work for 5 months, and at a job, you might be able to slack for a few months and you could get by and they're not going to fire you because there's all these laws about firing people. Well, for me, it's like, if I don't work for 5 months, I have no income, or my income falls dramatically. Like, my income could be double in 1 month and then cut in half the next month. There's no consistency there. So it definitely takes a different breed. And so that's why I think with why I'm doing my path differently. Like this is not coming off as like I don't enjoy life. I don't, I have my times where I go with my friends and we have a good time, and
Sure.
but I also realized what I value having my freedom of, hey, I can do what I want to do. I don't value driving a Tesla as much as I want a Tesla. I understand right now in my life, if I bought a Tesla and my income dropped dramatically in 1 month, and then I couldn't hit my other goals that are more important to me, like investing a certain amount every month and, being able to do this full time, then I would be upset with myself. And so for me, I want to make sure that I set myself in a position financially before I go make a $1,500 a month car payment on a Tesla for 6 years, because that's what it would take. And so it's not easy to go to zig while everyone is zagging. It's not the easiest thing to do. But I think if you look at history of successful people, I'm not speaking for everyone. There's always exceptions, but I think a majority of people would say that are successful don't do what everyone else does, and it'll pay off on the latter half. But that takes in the whole delay gratification, the long-term mindset, where most people, especially in the early 20s, don't have that. They get their first job out of school, the first time they're making money. So how can I go spend it? Bottle service every weekend, going out, vacations, which is great. Do what you want to do. I'm not saying that, I'm not trying to judge anyone, but I had the realization, I'm lucky enough to have the realization at an early age that that's not what I want. I don't want to be strapped to a corporate job I hate just so I can go on vacation every month, that I really didn't care about going on. I'd rather do my own thing, work on my own business, and inspire people to do the same thing and get their money right. To me, that's more important than the Tesla, $100,000 Tesla, or the, $600,000 house that I don't even need because that's one person. So that's how my mindset with all those kind of things.
I love that, man. I always joke, if I had met you when I was 23, I was making a lot of money at poker at that time. You're so rich right now, man. I was the bottle service guy. I was the sports car guy. It's so foolish looking back.
But
but learned a lesson, right?
And I think that's important too, is like, I understand that I'm an exception to basically everyone else in their 20s. And not that I'm anything special. I just had the realization at a younger age than most. Like, you realized it later than I did, and other people usually realize it in their 30s or 40s, like, oh shoot, I should probably worry about money now. When my thing is like, if I can get people in their early 20s to understand the importance of just getting $100 a month in, how much that can like add up to over the course of 20 years versus waiting until they're 40 and still investing, let's say invest 1,000 a month at 40 versus doing 100 a month starting at 20, like you're gonna end up with more money mathematically. So it's like, how can I get people to just realize it? You can go have bottle service, you can go get the fancy car, but just put something away in your early 20s and it will pay off when you turn 40, because barring some crazy event, everyone's going to turn 40 and you might as well have some money there working for you versus trying to play catch up, because it's never fun to play catch up.
Yeah, that's right, man. I think you were the one that turned me on to, if you start at 20 and you just invest the same amount every month from 20 to 30 and stop, or you start at 30 and you invest the same amount, so from 30 to 60, you have more at 60 when you only did the 10 years as opposed to the 30 years. And that's the beauty of compounding. And that was what a light bulb to me. I always thought, well, when I get more money, I'll start, or when I get this, I'll start. That was the beauty to me. I got to start now. Like every day I waste is another day that I'm losing on the back end, So that was a big light bulb for me too.
Yeah. Something that I can't remember who said it, but he said, when people say, it was Morgan Housel who wrote Psychology of Money. I'm not sure if it's his quote, but I read it in his blog. But he said, when people say they want to have $1 million, because that's, $1 million, like that vanity number, right? So they say, when people say I want to have $1 million, what they really mean, what most people really mean, is they want to spend $1 million. Mm-hmm. See, and that's where, it's never enough for that mindset, right? It's like, well, if I make an extra 10,000 a year, then I'll invest the extra 10,000. It's like, maybe you will, but majority of people that make the extra 10,000, they're going to go spend the extra 10,000, right? So another tweet I read by one of my friends, he said, extra income won't fix your bad spending habits. So people think that if I make more money, I'll invest finally. And it's like, probably you're going to just spend it again because, right, it's lifestyle creep. It's the keeping up with the Joneses, etc. Nothing, not trying to judge anyone that does that, but it's just, all I'm doing on social media is trying to open that conversation on the other end. Again, you can do what you want to do. My life's I'm going to be good with my money, and you're going to be good with your fitness. But I want to help you at least just bring the conversation up.
Yeah. Think different, right?
You don't have to do it. You can say, hey, this guy's whatever, it's over. I don't care about it, whatever, it's fine. But let me just have that conversation with you. and maybe open up that light bulb. Maybe it works, maybe it doesn't, but at least you know, versus most people, they just don't know. They're used to, their family members. Hey, when we make money, we spend money. Their grandparents, when we make money, we spend money. Their friends, when we make money, we spend money. They have no idea. How can I get them to be in the know? To kind of just bring up the conversation.
That's right. The saddest thing I think I ever saw when I was working and managing a bank for 5 or 6 years, man, was the older client who's 67, who's has no savings, no retirement, no investments, and they're still having to work a job, and they're hobbling around. They get $792 a month coming in from Social Security, but they've got 3,000 worth of bills, and so they're trying to bridge that gap. And you just think, man, if they had met somebody back in their started earlier, their whole life could be different at that point, So yeah, I love that you're doing that, man. Well, let's talk briefly here about the ZZZ Club, some of the things you founded, Purple Brickio. What are the kind of people that come to you? I know you offer a lot of free stuff too. I know you also have some paid programs. Can you kind of talk us through what you offer and kind of the ideal people that come to those?
Yeah, I have a really hard time charging people on things, and people tell me that's bad because pay for your time. But I sit in the camp of like, especially talking about money. I want people to use that money they'd spend on me to invest it, to get on their journey. So I'm always like battling that. That's just like a full transparency thing. Like in my head, I'm always battling like charging people for my time, while also like trying to get them to invest. So something I always battle with. So I give away not give away, but I give out most of my content for free. YouTube is free to watch. Twitter is obviously free. Instagram, I don't really post there, but it is free. And I have a newsletter that's free. So a lot of things are free. But yeah, I have a paid Discord where I can get a little bit more inclusive with people and say, get them one-on-one, help them out, and chat through things and help them like learn different things. And then, yeah, the Purple Brick is an app. That's a dividend tracking app. And so that's free for now. It's a business. We got to make some money. So we're figuring out some pricing things there, but it helps you just track your income from dividends, set goals. Like, hey, my phone bill is $50 a month. How much am I making in dividends? Hypothetically, are my dividends covering my phone bill? Is it covering my mortgage? Am I financially free because of dividends? Like, help you build that, like you mentioned, the Gamify thing, gamifying it with your dividends as well. And then also I'm working on legally being able to give financial advice. So I'm about to start studying for licensing with the SEC so I can actually like give financial advice legally, and help people manage their money if they want that. Because as much as I love Twitter, as much as I love YouTube, as much as I love Instagram and doing everything, I really want to change people's lives financially. Like, Twitter's great, but are they scrolling through? Are they really doing anything about it? Or are they just like liking it and moving on? Or are they really investing? And I'll never know. But if I do this, I can actually work with them one-on-one and like basically hold their hand on the journey to reaching where they want to be financially. And so to me, like if I think long-term with my mission to change people's lives, financially, this is what I believe to be the best route. So that's something I'm working on that should be coming in the next few months.
That's awesome, brother. I love to hear that, man. And I think you're changing a lot more lives than you know. I mean, I'm one case in point, man, from first meeting you a few years ago. I mean, I remember you telling me like, yeah, I read 100 books the last couple of years. Like, I just like drawn to you. And I was like, man, this guy really knows what he's talking about and he makes it simple. And then, joining a Discord with you, I think, you have that barrier up about, I hate charging. Dude, I mean, it's like just talking about this with a client on a call, if you hang around 10 people that are complaining about their wives, drinking beer, doing all these things, spending all their money, bro, you're going to be that next person. To just join a Discord group with you and a community of people who are centered around great health habits, fitness, up in their finances, budgeting. You can walk them through things. I mean, that's worth a lot. That's valuable to a lot of people, right? To have that kind of service. So I think that's awesome, man. We're going to link everything Colin does below, of course, guys, but man, you got to check out his YouTube. He's the greatest follow on Twitter, writes some amazing threads. We'll link it all, man. Are you ready now for the rapid fire questions, Colin?
Yeah, let's run it. All
right, brother. Rapid fire questions. We got 5 of them coming at you. I talked about you reading 100 books in a year or 2 years, but what's the most impactful book you've ever read? And what's one that you would recommend to like a first-time person who doesn't know anything about money?
Yeah, I'm gonna do like 2 books because one, I think for money specifically, I would read The Millionaire Next Door. It teaches you that like the average millionaire that we see is not driving the Lamborghini, the Rolls Royce, right? Those are exceptions to the rule. The average millionaire is your next door neighbor that you would never assume. So that's a great book for money related. But I think in life, like this also includes money too, but would be How to Win Friends and Influence People. I've read that book. I try to read like every year because it the title's kind of like, how to influence people, whatever, like it kind of sounds, but it's a very, very good book to talk about like how to talk to people, how to become friends with people, how to, get that influence on people, not in like a negative way, but in a positive way, like by remembering their name, by doing all these things. I really love that book. So Money would be Millionaire Next Door, but just overall book to become like a better person and better communicator would be How to Win Friends and Influence People.
I love that, man. That was one of the first books you recommended me. I read it 3 years ago, Millionaire Next Door. That really opened my eyes too, because I think everybody thinks in their head, oh, the athletes, CEO, entertain. These are the people that are millionaires. Like, nah, man, 94% are teachers. They're just people that save money every month and they let time do its thing, right? Like once you kind of realize that, you realize, well, I'm no different than these people. I can do this too. That's awesome, man. This one, I'm interested to see what you think. What are some common myths or biggest myths you see about personal finance that you can debunk or you think are wrong?
Yeah. I think the first one, you sent me over the notes and I was trying to think on some good ones, but I think the first one is, and I used to think this, I used to think all financial advisors are bad because I was like, why would you ever pay someone to manage your money? And while I think that not all are good, I don't think you could say all are bad because there's a study done by a company. I don't remember the name of the company that did the study, but JP Morgan published the study. And they found out that from 2001 to 2020, so a 20-year time frame, the average investor returned 2.9% per year average returns versus the S&P after I think it was after inflation was like 7 point something percent. And so it's like, where's the disparity? Why is the average investor getting 2.9 when the market's getting 7? And because most people try to do what everyone does in the market. They try to buy high, buy low, sell high, right? That's what they try to do. They try to time the market. And so I think, the first thing that I was like, when I first got the money, I was like, well, everyone's smart enough to manage their own money. Just keep buying, don't sell, think long-term, you'll be good. But I'm coming to realize that most people aren't that. They don't think long-term, they think short-term. And so, I don't think all financial advisors are bad. And it could, like you mentioned, it's good to have someone in your corner that knows it and says, hey, here's what you should do because it's a better time to do this, etc. So that would be one big debunk I have for personal finance. Another myth I think is like, it's not really a myth, more or less it's just like mindset again. Is like people think it happens overnight. And you look at like Warren Buffett, right? And he's like the poster child of long-term investing, but his didn't happen overnight. And he was like in his 50s, he was worth like 300 million. Now he's worth 100 billion. Like it's crazy that the second half of compounding is as powerful as it is. And so that would be my second one. Is like most people think, oh, I can just turn 10 million or 10,000 into 10 million. I'm good. And and they see these people on Twitter being like, join my trading group. I'll teach you how to do this. And it's like, they're making their money from the memberships, not from the trading. Most of them. I can't say for all, but so I don't know. Those are my two like debunks.
Yeah, I like those, man. Yeah, shout out to Drew O'Brien. I bet he watches this. He's a guy that is in my corner. That I think he helps me save on taxes, helps me with a lot of things, financial planning for long term. I think there's a lot of value in that, man. Somebody taking a high level view and a high level look at you. I agree with that, man. That's awesome. This one I'm interested in, man. What's the hardest thing you've ever done or gone through that can be physically, marathon or whatever that is, man? College football days.
Yeah, I mean, I've done a lot of things physically. Ran marathons, workouts at football, like those were tough. And honestly, I think one of the hardest things I've ever done, it used to be a marathon just because for me, it was like the hardest thing I did. And then I did a mile on Jacob's ladder, which is like, like bear crawling, like up the ladder.
Yeah, I know that thing.
So I did a mile on it. It's by feet. So I did 5,280 feet. Right. And, it was like 50 something minutes. And that was probably one of the hardest things I've ever done.
Why did you do that? Just to see if you could?
Just to see if I could, man.
I love that.
When I see challenges, I'm like, I want to see if I can do that. So I just did it. I want to run an ultra marathon. I don't know if I'll do it this year. I keep pushing it back. So I think I'm just going to do it this year. It's like 50 miles. So that will probably go up there. But right now, what I have completed, that 1 mile on Jacob's ladder was probably the hardest thing I've ever done.
You sweat within the first minute of Jacob's Ladder, man. That thing is not easy. It's full body, man. So yeah,
Oh yeah,
mile on
yeah,
there is brutal, man. I'm sure you felt
yeah.
like quitting many times when you were doing that.
It was, and people would. I was in the gym, and they'd be like, "Are you done with the machine?" I'm like, "I'm sorry, I'm going a mile." I was like, "It'll take me like." I didn't know how long it was gonna take me, but then I kind of figured out the time. I was like, "It's gonna be like 50 minutes to an hour." I was like, "I'm sorry, I'll be done very soon." I'm
Bro,
just like drenched in
if I
sweat.
approached you on a Jacob's Ladder and said, "Are you almost done?" And you're like, "I'm doing a mile," I'd be like, "This guy's a psycho. I'm not messing with him. Like, he's doing a mile, man. This
Man,
guy's crazy,
it
right?"
was brutal. It was brutal, but honestly, it was one of the it's one of those things where like it was so tough. When I got done, I was like, I feel amazing.
Yeah,
Like
exactly.
I like a David Goggins, like you get something really done, your body's in pain, it hurts, but I was like, it was the greatest thing I ever did.
Yeah, it's just like euphoric, man, doing hard things. My hard thing for this year, I'm gonna do 5 Murphs in a day, man. So I'm gonna wake up at 1
Oh,
a.m.,
nice.
do another one at like 3 a.m., then 10 a.m., kind of plan the day out and try and get 5 of them done, man. That's my
I
goal.
like it. I like it.
You could fly out here and do one with me if you want, man. We make a lot of
Let's
good content around that.
let's do it. I'm down. I'm down.
I like it, man. I like it. What's the best memory or favorite part of Twitter, social media that you might have over the last few years? Because again, you've been documenting your journey from day one, man, and it's been awesome to see. Anything stick out in that time?
Yeah, we're fighting the sun coming down my shirt.
No worries.
I think the greatest memory from social media is just like, I don't think there's one thing. It's more or less just the people I've met along the way. I think being a creator on the platform and social media in general it can get lonely because like you're just, you have 100,000 people that follow you. You're creating content for them, and they're asking you questions. They're DMing you, "Hey, can you do this for me? Do that?" And if you don't have people in your corner that are also creators, it can be very like draining, right? Like I wake up every day with DMs, messages. "Hey, what do I do here? Teach me, help me, whatever." And no one's like, "Hey, who do I turn to for questions?" Right. And you can get that imposter syndrome, all these things. And so I think my greatest memory is like connecting with people like you, Ty, that maybe we're not in the same area. Like, you're not finance, I'm not fitness, but we both understand what it's like, and we can be in each other's corner. And I enjoy fitness as much as I enjoy finance. You enjoy, maybe not equal, but you do enjoy finance too.
Yeah.
And so we can talk those things, but also too, like we can just connect as creators. So I think my greatest memory would be that. It's just like the connections along the way, because what is social media if you're not learning from other people and helping others? But connecting with people would probably be my greatest memories.
Yeah, me too, man. I remember us hopping on calls early on and just to chat and like, "Hey, man, I'm thinking about this or I'm struggling with this," and those meant a lot to me too, man. Again, you're a guy that I've learned from my whole time I've known you, man. So I appreciate that too, brother. Last question, man. You already kind of alluded to it, but what are your future plans? Maybe some goals you have for the future, and let's shout out again. I'll link everything. We can find him Twitter, YouTube, Instagram, newsletter, the ZZZ Money Club. You got to check out everything Colin does. It's pretty amazing. So give us some future plans, man.
Yeah, like I mentioned, I was done some pondering the last month or so. I live by myself, so sometimes evening times I sit down after I eat, I shower, and I'm just like, read something, or I'm just thinking about like, how do I make this thing last? How do I like make a lasting impression on people, and change their lives for the better? And like I said, as much as I love tweeting, as much as I love creating content on YouTube, like that's great, but I don't get that actual connection with people. I can't really see, are they doing what I'm teaching, or are they just saying they are, or are they not at all? But they're just so confused. They're afraid to ask, like, how can I actually change someone's life financially? And so for me, it's like, can I create, and that's why I'm doing this exam to become legally able to give financial advice and work with people to actually help them and like change their life. Because, there's nothing to me. I want to leave this earth hopefully when I'm a 500 plus, when Elon puts that stuff, that I can, be proud of like everything that I've been doing, like personally, but also like on social media, being like, hey, 100,000 followers, that's great. But there was 300 people that I got to work with one-on-one. And because of me, and obviously because of what they're doing, but because of my information and my help, they actually were able to reach financial freedom. To me, like that is what I think to be a really, really good feeling when it does happen. And so that's kind of what I'm excited for. That's like a long, it starts in 2023, but it goes on until 2133.
I love that. I think you'll be so great at that. And then the ripple effect of that, you just help one guy escape that job he hates and become free, get to spend more time with his kids. That unlocks their mind. And now they're thinking in that term. I think it's how you change the world, man, with that ripple effect. Well, brother Colin, I appreciate you coming on, the Decade Investor. I hope you guys have enjoyed this as much as I have. This is a man that I just love. I admire. I look up to. Give him a follow on all socials. Mention about the ZZZ Money Club, man. I'm telling you, you guys can learn a lot from that. I know that I am a wealthier man sitting here today. I don't have to clock in at a corporation, in part because of you, man. I'm really thankful for that. So I love you to death, bro. Give the people a last word before we log off, man.
Yeah, first off, Ty, thanks for having me on, man. I love what you're doing. You inspire me to get to the gym when I don't want to go to the gym. You inspire me to, you did your 100,000 steps, and I was like, I'm not doing enough, in my fitness. So you're inspiring me to get better and do, challenge myself in the fitness realm of my life as well. But my lasting words, honestly, would just be like, get on base. Don't delay. The more you delay, like the less compounding has time for you. I don't care if it's $10. I don't care if it's $3. I don't care if it's $100. The more, if you say I'll do it tomorrow, it's never going to happen. That's with everything in life, but finance specifically. If you say I'll invest when I make $10,000, you're not going to, right? And so just start, get on base, and build that. Go to the financial gym, build those curls with your money, build the trust, and beautiful things can happen if you start. But if you don't start, compounding does not work with $0. You need something in there. So just get started. That'll be my lesson. And if you ever need any help, you know where to find me on socials. But Ty, again, thanks for having me on, man. I enjoyed this conversation a ton.
I appreciate you a ton, man. Well, guys, thanks for tuning in, man. This is Tyrompers No Limit Podcast. Thanks for joining Money Finance Freedom Week. We've had Colin, aka Decade Investor, on here, guys. You go have the greatest day of your life. Be kind to yourself. Be kind to others. Let's go change the world, baby. Have the greatest day.